Hi, everybody. Happy to have you here with me tonight in the locker room. I'm especially excited to welcome my guest, actress Olivia Diabo. Olivia is here to celebrate her first Daytime Emmy nomination for her role as Fifi Garrett in the hit drama The Bay. Many of you will also remember her early days as Karen Arnold on The Wonder Years, her big screen debut in Conan the Destroyer, her recurring role as Nicole Wallace on Law & Order Criminal Intent, and her incredible extensive voice work in Star Wars, The Clone Wars, The Legend of Tarzan, and the DC animated universe. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, so please help me welcome Emmy nominee Olivia Diabo.
Hi.
Hey, Olivia.
It's so lovely to see you, and it's such an honor to be on your show.
Well, thanks so much for being here. Congratulations on your Emmy nomination.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting. It totally came out of the blue. I'd only done one season on the Bay. We just shot our season 10. So I started on season 9, and I think I was like at a doctor's appointment or something when I found out Gregory Martin, our amazing showrunner, texted me, and he was like, give me a call. You've been nominated for an Emmy. And then I spoke to the D'Ambrosio twins, and then Mom Lisa, who've been so supportive in this whole plight of, helping. There's obviously logistics to go into submitting and putting together the footage that you think best represents you and your performance. So it's been an amazing journey just to work on the Bay, doing season 10 now, and this character I'm just loving. She's just really, she's full of surprises. I think after season 9, Gregory was like, yeah, I really get how to write for Fifi. Originally she was written as sort of as just a bitch boss, almost like the Heather Locklear role on Melrose Place. Yep. But I took that, obviously, I put it in my bonnet and let it percolate. But
that must have been one phone call. That must have been one phone call you liked making to Gregory.
I know, I loved it. I mean, I love talking to Gregory all the time, but this particular phone call obviously was incredibly special and celebratory, and this category that I'm in, it's just, I'm honored to be in this category with all these wonderful, actors. They're all so talented, and it's a new category, so it sort of correlates with the newness of coming on the show. A lot of the feelings that also came to me harked back to winning an Emmy on the Wonder Years, and also Ali Mills is nominated this year, so it's like the mother-daughter team are somehow reunited through these nominations, and it's just very exciting. I mean, it's all been just a revelation to me.
What does it mean that many years later than the Wonder Years to have this now?
Well, I think I've got a lot more work under my belt. I've done a lot of movies, a lot of other TV shows, and Broadway. I did The Odd Couple with Neil Simon, Matthew Broderick, and Nathan Lane, and that's not for everyone. Broadway is it's boot camp. So for me, that's really, being in New York, living in New York for 3 years, and having done Law and Order in New York, it's an amazing place to work, but it's a very work ethic is very much like the West End in London. Or working, what one does there. Very, very similar approach. Not that LA isn't that, it's just, you've got pilot season out here. And so anyway, Broadway is one of my favorite things, is being on stage.
So it didn't hurt that you were with like two of the funniest men on the planet.
I know. I mean, those guys are absolutely hilarious. And I kid you not, having come off of the producers, we sold out $20 million in tickets before we even got to rehearse with Joe Montello, who's such an amazing Broadway, superstar director, who, started with Wicked, and then he did Glengarry Glen Ross and Talk Radio, and so and then The Odd Couple. So he's really was a mastermind director to work with. Also working with Matthew and Nathan and Brad Garrett, and Neil Simon before he passed. I feel so incredibly privileged and honored and lucky to have met the man, this legend, from Barefoot in the Park to onto all of his plays that have become movies, including The Odd Couple. Legend, and giving us post-its. It's like in this line here, there's a comma right after. That's what I thought. So I'd like that. Then there's a period after. Your pigeon, your Gwendolyn pigeon laugh. Make sure there's a pause there because you want to see, how everybody feels about your really outlandish wench laugh. So it was like a gift from God. I flew myself out there. Then when I got a call back, they flew me out there, put me up, and there we had it. I played a very Cockney. They'd always been rather proper, the Pigeon Sisters. And I thought, these are two girls from London in the swinging 60s who smoke. And they also, they're working for Slenderama, so they talk a little bit like this, they wouldn't be proper. That was just my choice. And I think as an actor, the biggest thing we have are our choices. And that kind of leads me back to this wonderful role I'm playing on the Bay, which I love, that Gregory's done such an incredible job helping me develop and walking through it with my choices and being so supportive. I think for me as an actor, the thing I look for is the experience, right? And a character that I can layer, that I can bring to life, irrespective of whether she's a villain or she's a boss bitch, which Fifi Garrett is. She's got a very low voice. She's an Aussie, so she's a bit of a Sheila, but she's working in corporate America, so she's hiring and firing people. And, she's quite righteous, when she meets, all the new people in the company. She's like, nice for you to know me.
Well, I love that you call her a bitch boss. My mother's name was Fifi.
Really? Oh my God, what a coincidence. That's
Isn't
amazing.
that great? Yeah.
I love the name.
Yeah, it's not one I see on TV very often as a character. So I love.
No, and I've played a few characters lately. One called Bam Bam that's on a new TV comedic series that's playing on Tubi right now called Hot Kitchen, and she's a Midwesterner who lives in Oregon. And so I've had some very interesting character names. Fifi and Bam Bam just kind of take the
absolutely
they take the trophy. But
and Tristan Rogers played your father.
He did, and I met him. Luckily, I got to meet him, which was, I remember him just being an incredibly gracious man with great integrity, very charming, and very grounded, and it was important, even that much more important now because of his passing, because I was learning about my family and these Garretts that, there's a lot of Garretts on the show.
There are a lot of Garretts.
And I remember Gregory telling me, we're going to have to give you blue contacts so that you look, more Australian, and the Garretts all have blue eyes. And I was like, okay.
Have you had the opportunity to meet Eileen Kristen yet?
I believe I've met Eileen. Does she play,
your mom in New York, I believe?
No, I've not met her yet, because I don't believe that she was at the gala event that took place in theory in season 9 in New Orleans, and I met everybody else, so that was amazing because I felt that much more familiar once I'd gotten to meet everyone in the cast. But and that included Dee Wallace, who was amazing to work with. What a legend. I grew up with her, so we had a real tete-a-tete going. So I met her, but no, have not met the actress that you met, but hopefully I will.
Yeah, hopefully, because she's a Spitfire, and if she's playing your mom, it would be great to see you two opposite each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure Fifi had to get it from someone, right? So it sounds to me like she got it from the matriarchal side of the family.
Absolutely, and Eileen is a Spitfire. The awards are 3 weeks away. Are you you have your dress picked out?
I am. I have several choices. It's just a question of which way I want to go, and it's a tough choice to make because they're all lovely. But yes, that is an important part of this whole ceremony. And I love fashion, and I love to play and have fun with fashion. So it'll definitely be something fun and playful and colorful, but chic. And I think award shows, that's what makes them so special. I think is that people really do, they kick it up a few notches to present themselves, and I am presenting, which is really exciting as a nominee.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Do you know what category?
Well, I don't know. They haven't given that over to me yet in terms of information or the script, but I am going to be rehearsing on the 16th. But they paired me up with a lovely actor who I'm looking forward to meeting, and then so it's all a surprise. So a lot of this is a surprise.
Well, we will be tuning in for sure. Absolutely. Let's go back in time. Your first role was at 15 in Conan the Destroyer. What was it like stepping onto, such a big stage at such a young age?
Well, I started at 14, and then I turned 15 by the time the movie was over, because it was a 6-month shoot in Mexico. So I was just a wee lass. And it was incredible. I mean, I would say it was really my first experience of being in the adult world. There was nobody really. There was a contemporary of mine in the movie, so I was very well looked after by Arnold, who threw me my 15th birthday party. That was really great. And Grace Jones, who's just amazing, such a rock star, and she's so mysterious. And Olivia, look, watch me, throw the spear and put this guy in the hospital. She did. She was so into her stunts that she really wanted to do them all. And Arnold too. There was a real camaraderie between the two of them. They're complete badasses, and I think we were reconstructing Samaria through our performances and these characters that we were playing. And for me, it was important to remember that it's a very famous comic book, and to keep it as how should I say it? As true to that as possible, because I think a lot of the audience and the demographic of the audience had seen all of the comic strip books, which is why I think the first one did so well. It was more violent than the second one, but it was amazing. I was down there with my mom. I had my work sent to me from a school, and I had a great teacher who embedded the locations that we went to, such as volcanoes and sand dunes in El Paso, which was right on the border of Mexico and El Paso. And, I had a driver, as did all of the cast members, Wilt and Tracy Walters and Marco and Sarah Douglas and Grace and Arnold and I. And so, we also hung out on the weekends, because we became like a family.
Are you there?
Oh, hi. I'm there. I don't know what happened there. There was a little glitch, but we all became like a family. And
The camera went out, so I don't know if maybe you have to sign back in. Let's see what.
okay.
Try again. No.
It's okay. I don't.
Maybe if you just try the link again. That glitch, it should work.
Okay, so then I just.
Yep, I'm gonna kick you out myself, and then just come back in.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
She'll be right back. What an amazing career she has had. She has not stopped working since the age of 14. I mean, that is really admirable and just amazing. Amazing, amazing. I hope you're all checking out The Bay. Season 9 she was in, and season 10 they're shooting, I believe, now. Gregory has seriously cast some amazing actors on The Bay. She does, Benjamin. She really does. She really does. I hope everyone's week is going well. It's only Tuesday. We're doing the show early this week due to the Jewish holidays. Agreed. Let's see if we get her back. Hopefully. Ooh, where are you going to binge Dark Shadows, Edwin? YouTube? I hope she returns. I hope we get her back. Let's see what happens. Come on, Olivia. Hopefully. Hopefully she will return. Olivia. Come on, everybody. Give good vibes for Olivia to get back on. In the Wonder Years, me too. I think that's definitely where I first saw her. Oh, I hope she's returning. Come on. Oh, I don't know what's happening. I hope so. Oh, there she is.
I'm so sorry about this. I
Technical difficulties happen.
They do, but I know. I know this show is live.
Don't worry.
How do you get around that?
I don't. I talk to everybody, and they're just talking about how much they adore you. Somebody
Oh,
said he first saw you on the Wonder Years in Brazil. Um,
wow. It's really incredible. I'm so happy that I have, I have a big fan base apparently in like Peru and Brazil, and they all love the Wonder Years. Mexico, it's great. I'm ready to go to South America and move there.
me too. Me too.
You want
Um,
to come?
so you said your mom was with you, but your mom was a model and actress. Your dad was a singer. Are they what inspired you to go into the arts?
Well, sure. I think you have your parents on a pedestal uh, until you get to an age where you kind of go, oh, well, they're not superheroes, but 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 they really are superheroes to me. But I just think that my mom, I've always had on a pedestal. She passed unfortunately a few years ago, but as time goes on, she had a legacy, as does my dad. You know, being in roles like playing roles in 2001: Space Odyssey and Hard Day's Night with Beatles, and being Vidal Sassoon's muse and first model for 5 years, and bringing in the A-line bob. So she was responsible for. My mother was a good time girl. She was half Irish and half English, and so she had that tenacity that that Fifi has, actually, that I have a bit of. I have a lot of it from her. I think that's what keeps me going, and it pushes me forward to be inquisitive and to try new things. So I thank her for that. I also get a lot of great stuff from my dad. But yeah, I think being brought up in a showbiz family, that was almost like an army brat family too, because we
Yeah.
traveled a lot. So, I got to see a lot of the world with them, and their response to the world. And my father, clearly they're both being artists. It's not your average. They weren't your average parents, and so therefore I didn't have an average childhood, which I wouldn't which I wouldn't change for anything. I think of myself as being very lucky to have experienced Rod Stewart coming round to the house when I was about 5, and Dusty Springfield and Cat Stevens, and Rod Stewart said to my dad, I really like that song, Handbags and Glad Rags, Mike, can I have it? And my dad's like, no, I'm not sure, Rod. I've got several other artists that are considering really wanting. And he's like, well, it's my song. It's going to be a hit. It's a hit. It's going to be my first hit. So, like, seeing him really fighting for what he wanted, which we have to do when we're passionate about things and we feel it in our gut. Dusty Springfield, meeting her was amazing. She gave me a bunch of her bangles. I was like a magpie at that age. Anything sparkly was I would like a hawk. I'd go, oh, that's a lovely ring. Can I try it on? I was quite precocious. I used to draw princesses. I loved jewelry. Subsequently, then played a princess. And so I think it's inevitable that rubs off on you, though they didn't push me into the business whatsoever. It was merely the thing that gave me the bug was seeing my dad on stage in a show, a musical that he adapted of Gulliver's Travels. So my father, walked down the exit signs, shining an apple on his lapel as Gulliver, and walked straight up from the exit signs down the aisles to the stage. And I was there. It was my 6th or 7th birthday, and I was there with my grandma and my 7 friends for my birthday. And I just thought, oh, I'm just going to get out of my seat and walk up on stage with him, which is exactly what I did, because he was my dad, and I'd never seen him play a character. And I was like, oh, Daddy, this is amazing. Look at all these people. And oh, there's Grandpa. And he's like, oh, all right, Olivia, you need to just sit down. I'll bring you back up when the show's done. But but do go back to your seat, darling. You know, just like,
Gosh.
no, but Daddy, I want to be up on stage here with you. This is amazing, you know. So I got the bug. It was like that connection to an audience, and they were laughing a bit because I think they put 2 and 2 together that he was my dad, and that I was his daughter, and you know, and then I was sort of a little bit embarrassed, you know. But then I walked back down, and he brought me up.
You had such success at such a young age, you know, Conan first, and then this little role of Karen Arnold comes along.
Yeah, I mean, you know, she was that was when I read that script, Alan, I thought I was going down Laurel Canyon in a car, and I usually don't read in cars because it gives people headaches, or me anyway. But I couldn't put it down. It was the pilot, you know, when Winnie Cooper's brother gets, you know, killed in Vietnam, and I tell my dad I want to be on the, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm going to go on the pill. I just thought you should know, you know, things like that, like just in your face, kind of like honesty, brutal honesty. Like Karen was dogmatic, pig-headed, stubborn as a mule, you know, very anti-Vietnam, but part of this incredible movement, which I took very seriously, you know. It was a time in America that was so, you know, important to, I think, this country and what we were fighting for, and really the last time I think the country was split down the middle, not unlike the way it is now, but it was a different kind of there was a split for different reasons, let's say, and I think Abby Hoffman and Gloria Steinem and you know, Timothy Leary. I mean, I got into Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. I read The Fabulous 60s. I watched The Fabulous 60s. Luckily, I was able to see it it was on VHS at the time, or video. And so I watched every decade from 60 to 70. So it covered, you know, Tune In, Tune Out. It covered Woodstock. It covered, you know, the Chicago 7. It covered, you know, all of the people who would have been influential to Karen, and why she was a bit moody sometimes, you know, because there was stuff going on in the world, and specifically in her country, you know, specifically Vietnam and the anti-Vietnam movement and the pro-Vietnam movement, which created the tension between Jack and I. You know, we'd always kind of get into it because the telly would always be on. You know, I'd be like, pass the mashed potatoes, you know, but I'd be watching people get killed, which in my teenage brain as Olivia and as this character I was portraying, you know, the two, it was interesting at the times where, you know, my adolescence, my youth, was married and bridged the gap between the character and who I was. It's like there were times where there was a lot of Olivia there, because, you know, my hormones were going crazy and I was feisty, and, you know, I've always fought for I stood up for what I believe in, you know, I still do. And it was a great character for me. And I think, having spent a lot of time in New Mexico where they shot Easy Rider, you know, the first people that I met on the reservation when my parents brought me, we like literally been flying for like 50 hours or something. You know, we stopped in Chicago, we had the 3 cats, and we got the keys to our house, but then we went to a buffalo rain dance on the reservation in Taos, New Mexico. Can you imagine these two, me and my brother Ben, these two little almost Disney Victorian, terribly, you know, well-behaved children, you know, seeing these amazing Native American people and their culture and praying for rain with these buffalo headdresses on. And I mean, like little kids from 4, they were in the middle, and then there was a circle around them of the ones that were about to go through the initiation of, you know, becoming men, which happens around 15. It's like the equivalent of a quinceañera for girls, and they take them up into the mountains, and they have to fend for themselves and find their own food, and then find their way back to their to the reservation. And so I met Dennis Hopper, Neil Young, Russ Tamblyn, Peter Fonda. It was the riffraff of, it was the late 70s, but it was still had Easy Rider all over it, which was the main location of where they shot. And they all had houses there. And Dennis was like, yeah, man, it's really nice to meet you. Wow, I love Manfred. Man, you guys are like amazing, And they all had ponchos on. And I thought, it was like they wanted to kind of join the Native American culture to that extent, where they were all almost dressed just like them. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if that's quite working, but I give you 10 points for effort. But I think there was tremendous respect for the culture and the wonderful, rich. My brother and I were the odd men out. I got to experience what it's like to be treated differently, they were the Hispanic people who were from Spain and the Native American people, kids that I hung out with, all the Native American kids. They protected me in fights and things like that. But we were called Anglos, we were. So I experienced what it's like to be on the other side of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an education. How do you think Karen shaped the types of roles you looked for after the Wonder Years?
Well, I started to find, ever since Conan, that what was coming to me were strong, clairvoyant young women. I mean, Jenna was 14, 15, but she was, a woman child, let's say, and she became a queen. So just that metaphor, if you think about it, is a great arc for an actress to play, especially at that age. So I was lucky enough to experience playing a role that was big enough, that gave me substance and content, great content with an incredible cast, to vacillate between drama and comedy, when Arnold's drunk in that scene and I was like, does this hurt? And he's like, yeah, it's only pain, and so that was great. But I think that then led into that experience. I think then brought me to a place where I attracted roles that
other women like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a correlation to all your work. And I think if you're lucky enough and you stay in the game long enough, this magical thing happens where you start to get roles that simultaneously, they ride right next to your life. So it's like, they say that acting is life. We're recreating life through our art, right? And an artist's job, in my opinion, is to regurgitate what we see around us, and then we put it into our work, and then it's our perspective, it's our interpretation that's coming through our artistic mind. So I was just super happy when Karen came along, because what I saw in her was a young woman who was conflicted, and there was a lot of emotion underneath there. Though it was a comedy, it was kind of also a drama, the Wonder Years, and I got a lot of the emotional scenes. I mean, that scene with Dan when he gives me the dog tag, and it's my birthday, and I'm like, I don't want any presents, and I've got a date, I gotta go. And he's like, you're not going anywhere till you open your presents and you have a piece of cake. I'm just like, okay. And he's like, and the connection between Jack Arnold and Karen Arnold and I was so palpable in that scene that you couldn't hear a pin drop. It wasn't necessarily even what we were saying to each other. It was the respect that when he gave me that dog tag, the respect and the understanding. It was like I suddenly had the epiphany of like why he was pro-Vietnam, because he'd been in the Korean War. So it's like the love was there, the respect, the admiration, the understanding, like it all. I got these wonderful episodes sort of into the second and third year, through all of it really. But I think again, you peel it back like an onion. You peel back all the layers, and you start to get closer to the heart of who the person is that you're playing. And so what I saw in Karen was this great big arc. I just thought, wow, if this thing goes for 7 years, or even 3 or 4, I feel like I can express all of the experience that I've taken in terms of my research. Letters to Vietnam was a book that I read, and all the music, and I loved the way they allowed me to come in with my boombox and hear Jimi Hendrix and just be like, yeah, just like, so the way women used to shake their heads in the 60s, and they'd be just so free. Like, I'm a hippie, right? I played a hippie, so I kind of am a hippie. So I definitely loved leaning into the freedom that exists in youth, and should continue to exist through your whole life. You should never lose that childlike sensibility and freedom of speech, freedom of the way you live your life. It's so essential, and it's my happy place. So you got to know what your happy places are, right? It really makes life a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have played, such varied characters. We're talking about Karen, Conan, Star Trek, the role of Nicole on Law and Order. What are some of your favorites?
Definitely Star Trek, though it was just one episode. It was kind of an epic episode. I think I tapped into playing an orphan, and the the awkwardness of not having parents. Amanda, I think, was 18, and I, being a Q, again, having omnipotent powers. I play a Jedi from Clone Wars and Rise and Fall of Skywalker, and so again, getting to play strong, powerful women that have maybe a sixth sense, or they're guided by their intuition because they trust it, which we all have inside us. And so for anyone out there, if you ever doubt yourself, just know that you don't have to go and ask your best friend. And you can discuss it, but ultimately we are the commanders of our own ship, and we know it's inherently in there that we have that ability to guide ourselves. We have a destiny, and I think we know when kind of getting off our path, and then we have to just know how to get back on it, and it's what determines that is that feeling. Or like, oh yeah, I feel free again. I feel like I could do anything. I feel invincible. I want to try that. And this is really not something I even thought I was interested in, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to take that course, or I'm going to scuba dive and go see what's going on under the world, way deep under the water, and see all the fish that the colors. And these are just examples, of course, but
being part of that Star Trek world is also pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't tell you how valuable that has been to me. as a person, and working with LeVar Burton and Brett Spiner and Jonathan Frakes, who I then cast me as director in The Twilight Zone with Jeremy Piven, and you know, so these relationships, Gates McFadden, I mean, all of them, you know, all of the writers, they took me under their wing as well and made me feel so at home. And Patrick Stewart, oh, what a dream come true to work with him, my God. You know, so that was John Delancey, of course. Let's not leave him out because he's the original Q and he's amazing. And I had a lot of scenes with him, and he really, as an actor, I think his choice, and also apropos of being a Q, he's like the monkey on my back. He's like, Amanda, don't you understand the power you have? And then it comes the darkness or the light. Don't you understand you can make Riker fall in love with you? Just take him to another planet. Take him now. You know, I'm just like, you know, and I loved her grace and her sense of strength, that she wouldn't just say, oh, okay. You know, she would think about it. And that there was an inner strength to her that I think, you know, maybe orphans have. That was just a choice I made, that she'd been on her own from a young age, and she didn't know if her parents were murdered by Q or not, or how they were murdered, but they definitely were. And obviously there's a kind of a vision that she has of them with her as a baby. But she's conflicted, and of course any character that's conflicted is an interesting character to play, because you are not certain about where you're going or what to do, but so it gives the actor the opportunity to explore and think even when they're not saying anything, and you are right there with them if you're doing your job properly, obviously, and you're really digging deep and being truthful and grounded about it. So that was amazing. It was important to them to cast me in that. They needed to know I'd done a lot of theatre, and I'd won a lot of Shakespeare festivals in junior high. I played Puck, and I played, you know, I did Midsummer Night's Dream, and then I did Abigail from The Crucible, and so I'd done my Chaucer and my Shakespeare and my, you know, my kind of all the classics to set me up for what was coming next, you know, and so that gave me confidence. Now, Nicole Wallace was an exceptional character to play, very different than any of the other characters we're talking about. You know, playing a serial killer is quite a feat. To make her real and charming and funny, that's also, again, you know, you play again. You can't just play a villain. You can't just play evil. You find through the ripples of the water of the experience how to get, if you're for me it was about playing my objectives with her, like what she wanted, and the darkness and the light would come out of her through that. And obviously Vincent D'Onofrio, who's just a stellar actor. He's, I think, one of the greatest actors in America today still. And he and I were mates. He and I were friends, and we'd done a film called Velocity of Gary that Dan Ireland directed, that Ethan Hawke was in, and Salma Hayek and Thomas Jane. And so we'd worked together, and we were friends, and we had a chemistry. And so we brought that chemistry to life with these two characters. And I think at that stage on the show, when Nicole and Bobby got together, it was just supposed to be maybe a 1 or 2 episode thing. But we just had this electric chemistry, and we just would like get each other's goat. And because of the brilliantly sculpted dynamic and storyline of Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty, which is kudos to Renee Balsa, who's Law and Order's greatest writer. I later reprised the role in another show that he did with Jean Reno in Paris, where Nicole's actually really not dead. She's still out there in the world, and she's just changed her identity. She's married a diplomat, and she's over in Paris. And, you know, he really created this. He set up this this tete-a-tete, this cat and mouse game, for us to just have a heyday. And each episode, we would just go further and further into my knowledge of his mother. You know, being in a in an you know, she was. I knew all of his secrets, and you know, she was I think in an insane asylum or something, and so I would just know exactly what to do to get him in the interrogation room when he was so close to like booking me, putting the handcuffs off, boom, putting me away for the rest of my life. Well, no, I would I would come up with a way, and I'd say yes. And isn't it interesting how your mother up at Carmel Ridge, how often do you visit her, Bobby? So, you know, she's one of these fascinating characters who turns it around, which I'm sure you've experienced, right, Alan? I mean, we all have. Some people are masterful technicians about how to take questions like Governor Newsom. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble here, but his ability to deflect is just astounding. Like I am an actor, so I'm a people person, so I watch human psychology and I watch the way people work and I implement it.
Interesting.
That's kind of how
Yeah, that's fascinating. Olivia, before I let you go, is there anything you haven't done yet in this business that you are still dying to tackle?
I'd love to do a musical, and a one-woman show, which I'm working on right now, which is going to embody, you know, my life as a child growing up in London and then moving to Taos, and, you know, then that permeating into me, us moving to California because my father was a musician, and telling stories. I think we get to this place as actors where some actors become activists and some people, but you know, or they get into philanthropic work, which I'm sort of at that place right now. But for me, I realize through the body of the work that I've done and through my life experience, I've been very lucky to have just as interesting a career as I have a life thus far. And I want to tell my story. I feel like I'm a storyteller now, you know. I play characters, I do a lot of different dialects, and the people that I've run into who have moved me or made me laugh hysterically, who I just find fascinating, will come through me, and that will also involve music, you know. So I'd like to do that. I'm working on that, and then a musical I've always wanted to do on stage.
I mean, come back to Broadway. You've
I'd
worked
love
with
to.
so many people.
Yes.
Is there somebody who you know are watching right now on television or in movies that you would love to work opposite?
Helen Mirren.
Oh,
Love her.
agreed.
Tom Hardy. He's a bit of all right, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not bad. Yeah, but they're two. He's good to look at, but they are both, Helen and he are talent personified.
Well, talent personified and humor. I'll tell you a little secret. I don't want to get too, I'm not going to say anything dirty, but it's a panty dropper. Because it's, you know, it's not just the physique. In fact, you forget about that because the talent is the predominant force that's coming through. But they're also easy on the eyes. So I think that's a huge component in making somebody a movie star. You know, men want to be the best friend of the guy if it's a man, and the women would love to date him. And if it's like Sandra Bullock has got that, you know, women love her and men want to go out with her because she's so funny and she's so like, you know, she's effervescent, she's full of life, she's on her feet, she's, you know, quick on her feet, and she's got a response, her retort, her acerbic wit, all of these things I think are what make people that I love to watch, celebrities, actors, they've just got that thing, and it's something you have or you don't. But those two people, Helen Mirren, Tom Hardy, you know, gosh, uh,
No, those are good ones. Those are good ones. Well, we will be tuning in.
We'll go with that for now.
Yeah, come back and share more.
Yes.
We will be tuning in on October 17th. Wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Alan. I've loved meeting you and talking to you, and I love your show. Thank you for having me.
Same here. And I can't wait to see what you're wearing, and just go and have a good time that night. That's what it's about.
I'm gonna have a good old time, Alan. I'm gonna go to have a good old time, and then
and you're gonna see Allie, right?
What?
You're gonna see Allie.
I'm gonna see Allie. So like, that's, she and I just trouble. I mean, forget about it. It's, you know, you put us together, it's like, woof. You better kind of stay there, because we take up a lot of space.
Thank you so much for doing this, Olivia. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to Olivia d'Abo for spending this time with us. Remember, The Bay is streaming. I think it's video on demand, and tune in to the Daytime Emmys on Friday, October 17th. The Emmys will stream online at the Emmys.tv. Join us next Thursday, October 9th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, as we come together to honor the incomparable Eileen Fulton, who for nearly 50 years brought to life the unforgettable Lisa Grimaldi on As the World Turns. To celebrate her extraordinary life and legacy, I'll be joined by As the World Turns alumni sharing memories and stories: Scott Bryce, Larry Brigman, Ellen Dolan, Don Hastings, Greg Marks, Hillary Bailey Smith, and Colleen Zink. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you'd like to stream audio versions, just search The Locker Room on your favorite podcast app. Have a great weekend, everybody. Please, as always, stay safe.